Hey guys, Slimber here, and I just wanted to say real quick before this video starts, after this video and the next video, or if the next video is on this one, then after this video, I will be done with political content. There will be an update video, and the link to that will be in the description, and you can check that out for my explanation as to why, and yeah, here you go. Hey guys, Slimber here, and today we're doing a video on Ben Shapiro. Now, I have a huge-ass hate boner for Ben Shapiro, as noted before in my videos, but this one is, I've seen going around the political commentary community a little bit. I haven't actually seen the video, but I've seen, like, Amazing Atheist and a bunch of others in my recommended pop up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and this is actually, like, an actual reaction, technically, to his, fucking political coordinate thing. So here we go.
There's this very popular test online. It's called the Political Compass Test. And basically, it scans on two separate axes. From left to right on the x-axis, it shows communism and collectivism to neoliberalism and libertarianism on the right. And then on the y-axis, it goes authoritarian fascism down to anarchism and libertarianism. We'll see how accurate it is. If the scale is correct in any way, I will end up in the right libertarian category. I mean, that's obviously where I am.
Or you're just not a right-wing libertarian. Because Ben Shapiro, some of your views, especially on things like abortion, aren't very libertarian-like.
I think the premises of the questions are incredibly stupid. So let's just jump right in. Question number one. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Did Bernie Sanders write this question? What a stupid-ass question.
I don't think it's a stupid question at all. It's simply asking if profits are more important than people. Now, Ben Shapiro, you may not like the wording because it does kind of make you look like an asshole. I'll admit that. But if you believe profits are more important than people, then you are a fucking asshole. Like, what else is there to say about that? There's not a good way to word that.
Seriously. Like transnational corporations, which are responsible through the use of free market capitalism for the dramatic decrease of poverty throughout humanity, are now opposed to humanity?
What? Since when have transnational corporations pulled people out of fucking poverty? Since when? The only time they've done it is when the government makes... Like, they will literally go into impoverished places and pay people, like, 1 cent. They don't go there to pull these people out of poverty. They go there because they're the cheapest to pay. And, I mean, yeah, I guess it pulls them, like, 1 fucking cent out of poverty. At least the U.S. equivalent to 1 cent. But they're still in poverty. Transnational corporations don't pull people out of poverty. Where are you getting that from?
So the very phraseology of the question is idiotic. But since they're asking this, I'm just going to assume that their premise is wrong and put strongly disagree, because transnational corporations have been a lot more helpful to humanity than top-down government-induced schemes. Okay, I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. I disagree with that. Because what if your country is terrible?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro, you're kind of full of shit. I mean, unless your opinion's changed since the Iraq War, you're full of shit, because you were pretty pro-Iraq War during that. You were pretty cool with whatever the government did then. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're full of shit.
No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. And I generally agree that it's silly to be proud of just where you were born. You should be proud of the country because the country actually doesn't suck. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Strongly disagree, because I don't think that races matter in terms of inherent quality. That's silliness. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I disagree with that. And the enemy of my enemy could also be my enemy. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Strongly agree.
Did see what I just said? I said he'll defend his country no matter what, and then he's right there. Right there. Right fucking there. I told you, he's full of shit.
International law is a bunch of crap written by countries that generally have their own priorities. The UN Security Council includes Russia and China, so yeah, I'm going to go with strongly disagree.
Yes, countries that have their own priorities, like, you know, not getting fucking nuked. I mean, of course, Russia, China, the US, they all build fucking nuclear weapons. But I believe there's, like, limits on that due to international law. And there's, you know, there's fucking, like, rules about doing shit like that. But there's a reason that exists. Yes, they have priorities. And they're not inherently all bad priorities.
Or strongly agree on we can sometimes defy the idiocy of international law, which is an idiotic construct in the first place. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Disagree. The reason I say disagree is because there was always that fusion. We just ignored it until the last 5 minutes when everybody got mad because conservatives were suddenly creating news. Okay, the economy. People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Strongly disagree, and World War I proved that that's a bunch of nonsense.
Whoa, we're not going to skip over that. We're not going to skip over that, Ben. We're not going to skip over that, Ben Shapiro. People aren't divided by class? They aren't divided by class? Have you seen the wealth gap, Ben Shapiro? Have you fucking seen the wealth gap? People are 100% divided by class. And then World War I proved that's not true. When? Tell me. Tell me how World War I proved that's not true. But alright, whatever. Continue on. Continue on with whatever you're going on.
Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I agree with that, because you can't actually control unemployment. You can only provide the principles necessary in order for an economy to flourish. The only way to control unemployment directly would be through top-down government control, and you could have a horrible economy with complete employment. That was called the USSR or Cuba or Venezuela until the last 5 minutes.
Or what about, I don't know, the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, FDR introduced the WPA to create new jobs. And what do you know? Unemployment went down, like, a lot. It might have not single-handedly, I mean, obviously Social Security was there and other things, but it pretty much helped pull us out of the Great Depression, and it single-handedly killed pretty much most of the unemployment going on at the time. But no, government intervention on unemployment, oh, that fucks everything up, right? Oh, totally.
Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Well, I mean, I generally agree, but I wouldn't single out corporations there. Obviously, when it comes to environmental regulations, you do require environmental regulations. You have the tragedy of the commons. You have the ability to regulate externalities. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly disagree, because need should not dictate either moral worth or the morality of the thing that you need. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Strongly disagree. Why is that? Why is that bad? I'm confused. I mean, you can still get it from the tap.
That's still not free. That's still not free, Ben Shapiro. The only way it's free is if you go to a fucking river and fucking drink out of it, or a lake, or some shit like that. You still have to pay a water bill for a tap, Ben Shapiro. Do you not know that? Do you not pay a water bill? Do you not know that? The tap isn't free.
Like, seriously, like, if you don't like the bottled water, just don't drink the bottled water.
What about if you're in a city like Flint, or you're in, like, I don't know, California? Oh, you're in California, aren't you? Yeah. What if you're in a place like California where a drought is going on? Or you're in Flint where the water is fucked? Or you're in New Mexico where the water is fucked? Ben Shapiro to the people of Flint.
Like, seriously, like, if you don't like the bottled water, just don't drink the bottled water. It seems pretty fantastic that you can go to the store and buy basically whatever you want. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly disagree, because what would the alternative be? That it would be all government owned and allocated by the government? It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Again, the premise of that question is so ridiculous. A lot of the time when people suggest that people are just manipulating money, what they are actually doing is mitigating risk and assessing risk and providing capital and liquidity markets that allow you to go out and spend on your company, on your business, or allow you to have a credit card, for example. So I'm going to go with disagree on that one.
See, here's my problem with Ben Shapiro on that. I'd be, like, somewhat okay with that if he didn't, like, have the opposite opinion on poor people. If somebody who's poor is making money by doing nothing, he'll throw a fucking fit. But if somebody's getting a lot of money and doing pretty much nothing, providing pretty much nothing to society, just leeching off society, as long as they're rich, he doesn't have an issue with it. He loves it.
Maybe strongly disagree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Agree, but only for national security reasons. So maybe disagree? Maybe I'll put disagree, because It's generally not necessary in trade. It's only necessary for national security reasons. It's not necessary for economic reasons. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Agree. Agree. That's what a company is designed to do. It's designed to provide a profit to its shareholders, and that has a bunch of ancillary benefits. It's not designed for employment. It's not designed for redistribution. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly agree. And by the way, I agreed with this when I was making 50, 60 grand a year.
Yeah, that's because your fucking paycheck was coming from those people. That's why. Because you were paid to think that. That is literally what you are paid by, like, the Koch brothers and shit to think. To say. The rich aren't too highly taxed. They're not taxed enough. Like, let me say, like, billionaires specifically aren't taxed enough. We have a progressive tax system in the U.S. until you get to, like, basically billionaire status.
Of course the rich are too highly taxed. On a net basis, the rich are paying for nearly everything in the country right now via taxation. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Well, again, the phraseology of the question is so ass backwards because, again, the question isn't whether those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. The question is whether a system that allows people to pay for better medical care also allows people who are poor to get better medical care. Meaning that when rich people pay more for medical care, where do you think that money goes? It goes into the medical system and is then reinvested in drug development, reinvested in medical innovation.
So that was, like, complete nonsense. Like, you literally do word soup, Ben Shapiro. And, like, okay, my brother is, like, a super big conservative. And he says that all the time. He's like, oh, Ben Shapiro, he just word soup. Half the shit he says, bullshit. And the more and more I watch you, the more and more I come to agree. Like, you're just talking out of your ass, dude. Ben Shapiro, I think, purposely talks fast like that, so you won't be able to digest what he says and realize that he's full of shit. He'll go on to the next topic, like, instantly. He talks like that because he talks that fucking fast. He talks that fast so you won't fucking realize he's basically doing word soup.
So the answer is agree. But again, like, you can tell who wrote these questions. These questions are obviously written by people who are very much of the political left. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Agree, but it depends on what you mean by mislead the public. Obviously, you don't actually have to have the government penalize those businesses. That's fraud. If they defraud somebody, you can have a tort suit on that basis. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. I'm going to say disagree only in the sense that a natural monopoly is nearly impossible. It is very difficult to establish a natural monopoly. The typical way that monopolies are generated is because governments have approved them, is because governments have sponsored the monopolies.
These companies aren't being forced by the government to buy out each other. They're doing it to create monopolies. Yeah, the government has to approve it, but the government isn't forcing the monopoly. It's not government intervention that's caused the monopolies. It is literally the fact that, the fact our government allows these monopolies to exist that has caused these monopolies. There are natural monopolies. What do you think they would do if there was no government intervention, Ben Shapiro? Do you think they'd literally decide, you know what? We're not going to monopolize the industries to make more money? No. Nope, that's just impossible under, was it Lasfet? I can't fucking pronounce that word. I'm retarded. But fucking... pure capitalism. Under pure capitalism, nope, it's just impossible to start a monopoly.
The freer the market, the freer the people. Strongly agree. Okay, next page. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly agree. If the scale is correct in any way, I will end up in the right libertarian category. That's obviously where I am. All authority should be questioned. Agree. I think that we should always ask the basis for the authority. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What? One of the great misnomers in all of biblical history is the notion that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth is meant to be taken literally. There's entire swaths of the Talmud dedicated to discussing the fact that this is meant in terms of monetary pricing, that the cost of an eye should be repaid by compensatory damages.
Dude, that is literally slang for the fucking death penalty. Have you not heard that? That's like slang for basically government, like, I guess, punishment in that type of way, like the death penalty, or like when the Middle East where they cut off your fucking hand if you steal or some shit like that. That is literally what they're talking about. Have you never heard of that, Ben Shapiro? I know for a fact you have never, you have heard that. I know because everybody has fucking heard of that.
An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, disagree. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Agree. By the way, that doesn't mean you can't have a nonprofit. Most museums are run on a nonprofit basis. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Agree. But they should make it that parents are truant if they do not pass certain educational standards for their children for the welfare of kids. But suggesting that we're going to force you to send your kid to a public school as opposed to homeschooling, that's why the question is a little bit vague. Like, what kind of classroom attendance? Are we talking homeschooling or are we talking public schooling? All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Again, the way this is phrased is so ridiculous. Well, what does that mean? Different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Like, I think that...
They mean segregation, you fucking moron. You're literally overthinking all of it.
People should marry people who have similar values. But I don't know if by kind they mean ethnicity or race, in which case completely disagree. So it completely depends on what they mean by the question.
What you suggested isn't good either. People, if they disagree with each other, should just all stay away from each other. Then there's no public discourse. I don't think we should segregate left-wingers and right-wingers. Then there's no fucking public discourse at all. You should have a range of ideas going around. That's probably why you're authoritarian. Yeah, if you believe everybody should be separated because they have different ideas, that's pretty fucking authoritarian.
There's inherent vagary to these questions. And I understand that these questions are designed to elicit responses that are quote-unquote racist, so they can label you conservative for being racist. I understand that's what they're doing here.
So their compass is listed like this. Like, their authoritarian is listed conservative. Their libertarian is said liberal, and then there's right, and then there's left. So I'd say that the majority of racists, and I'm not saying all conservatives are racist. In fact, let me scratch that. I'm not saying all right-wing conservatives are racist with the way their compass is. But the majority of racists are likely to show up conservative and right-wing because of individualism. A lot of them are very pro-individualism, and authoritarianism. Racism itself is kind of an authoritarian ideal. So here's the deal. Like, if you want to compare authoritarianism on both sides, compare somebody like, let's say, Mao and Stalin on the left to Hitler or Mussolini on the right for things like, for example, race or LGBT shit. I mean, obviously, Mao and Stalin were not very progressive when it came to human rights, but when it came to race and LGBT, I'm pretty sure, I'll look into it again, but I'm pretty sure they were, like, at the time, more progressive than the U.S. was.
But the questions are deliberately written in vague fashion to elicit those responses. So knowing what they want, I'm going to go strongly disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I generally disagree with that. I'm not in favor of spanking, and I don't spank my kids.
See, I kind of think a lot of your base is going to fucking be like, whoa, what? And to an extent, I kind of agree with them. I mean, look, there are some people that overdo spanking. This is just for me to go on a little tangent for this. This is the whole point of this part. There are people that, like, obviously go way too far. Like, you shouldn't fucking abuse your kid. But, like, if your kid's being an asshole, if you, like, for example, you say, go to your room. No, I'm not going to my room. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to get him to go to the room? You just pick him up and say, pick him up, put him in their room. They open the door, walk out. What are you going to do? There are situations where, I guess, corporal punishment is acceptable, but there's also a line.
It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I mean, I agree that it is natural. It is also wrong as a general matter. So I don't know what they're going for there. I'll say agree on whether it's natural, but I like that the survey immediately seems to identify natural with morally correct, which of course is silly. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Agree? The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Strongly agree. I think moral education is generally the preserve of the parents. People with serious inheritable disability should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree. I don't know what we're calling it the Woodrow Wilson eugenicist there. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Obviously, disagree. It's an important thing for kids to accept discipline because they don't know things because they're kids. It is not the most important thing for children. The most important thing for children is to be taken seriously and develop actual rational modes of thought. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Well, again, the way this is phrased is ridiculous. By saying peoples, what they are now implying is that if you say that there is an uncivilized culture, that you are labeling a people, meaning an ethnicity or a race. So
no, the question is more, is savagery or civility more of a man-made construct than a natural construct, I guess?
the very phraseology of the question is asinine. But if we rephrase the question, this is the question I'll answer, so now it's clear. There are no savage and civilized cultures. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree. Obviously, that's not true. There are some cultures that suck. And if you don't believe me, check out the Taliban. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Strongly agree.
So what if the offer is humiliating? What if the offer is, like, completely fucked? So let's say Harvey Weinstein offered, who is somebody who's a homeless person, said, look, I'm gonna fuck the shit out of you every day, nut on your fucking chin, and I'll give you $20K, and I'll put it on fucking YouTube or some shit like that. I just can't put it on YouTube, Pornhub. And they said, no, that's degrading. I don't want to do that. Do you think they shouldn't be offered help? Because they had that opportunity. They had an opportunity, and they took it down.
When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Generally agree. It's better. I mean, wallowing in things is not usually a great solution. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Disagree, because many successful corporations are looking for government handouts or bailouts. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Strongly agree. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. In the United States, I'm going to go slightly disagree, but I'm kind of torn on this one. I'm like between agree and disagree on.
Oh yeah, fuck the Fourth Amendment. Our civil liberties aren't being fucked over by things like the Patriot Act. No, 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 no.
Honestly. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Strongly disagree. One-party states are garbage. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly agree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Strongly disagree. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Agree. I mean, like, if you give me a blank canvas and tell me that it's art, you're an idiot. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Agree. If the scale is correct in any way, I will end up in the right libertarian category.
All right, I just want to skip to where he gets the results at this point.
All right, let's see where I stand. It says that I am right libertarian, right, which is true. It says that I'm 6.13 on the economic right, and on the libertarian versus authoritarian score, I am slightly more libertarian. I'm negative 0.72 on that score. So that would put me closer to like Milton Friedman territory. The scale itself is really stupid. The reason the scale itself is really stupid is because I'm looking at the examples that they give. They put Hitler and Thatcher in the same category. They say that they are authoritarian right. Adolf Hitler and Margaret Thatcher, which makes no sense and is full-scale idiotic. They have Stalin in the left authoritarian category, and they have Hitler in the right authoritarian category, and Thatcher in the right authoritarian category. Like, this whole scale is off. I mean, I went through the questions. You can see that all the questions are designed to elicit particular responses. I just don't think that this is a particularly accurate score.
See, I think they even admit their positioning isn't great, but here's the deal, is when you actually sit there and read what they're basing it off of on their website, they're basing it off like left-wing, right-wing. Left-wing, more government control on economics. Right-wing for free market, more free market. Conservative, more government control on pretty much social issues. Libertarian, less government control on social issues. So when you look at somebody, for example, like Hitler, he would obviously be more authoritarian than Margaret Thatcher, but he was, I guess, more, how should I say... He had more social programs than her and was less for a free market than she was. Stalin, super authoritarian, super against free markets. Like, it makes fucking perfect sense.
I think the outcome of where I am on the scale is fairly accurate. Although I would say that I'm kind of shocked that they don't place me as more libertarian, like based on what would be the question. But
well, from what I've seen of your shit, based on abortion, based on your opinion on the prisons, I think you said openness about sex has gone too far. So based on that, there's a lot of things you could base that off. I honestly think you were a little too far libertarian on there. You should be a couple points higher on the authoritarian.
There you have it. I've gone through this thing at great length with you, and hope you enjoyed.
So I just took the test myself. Let me make myself bigger. Hold on. Yeah, let me make myself look bigger. I just took the test myself, and this is where I landed. Very far left-wing libertarian. And, yeah, what did you guys think of this video? Leave a like, call me, I don't know, a left-wing piece of shit. And, yeah, Slimber out.